today, class?
Yes, sir.
How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing today? Pretty good?
Very good.
We're here today to go over some basic knife skills. This is for the educational measurements and evaluation, as well as the ACF Certified Culinary Educator class. My name is Chef Anthony Padavan, and I am here today just to go over some basics with you, some basic information, and do some review work with you. One of the things that I had asked my advanced organizer on the door was to name some different knife cuts, 5 in particular. Can someone name those for us? Sir, can you name 5 different knife cuts?
What am I doing? Julienne, Louis, Bethany, Tournay, and small dice.
Small dice, that's very good. And how often do you use those knife cuts? Do you use them quite a bit?
Most of that Julienne and small dice is what we mostly use.
Mostly, okay. And how about you, sir? Can you name some knife cuts?
Medium dice, Tournay, large dice, fine matinee, and
Okay, good. That's good. Okay, I have a little handout that I prepared that I'm going to give to this young lady, and she's going to hand it out to you. And there's something I want everybody to take a look at before we really get started. On the top of the paper, there's something about knife skills that I'd like you to read through to yourself. Just take about 5 minutes to read it, and then we're going to have a quick discussion about it before we even get started, because this is very important. This is going to lead into what we're going to have, a discussion we're going to have about mise en place. Okay? So, make sure everybody get one. Everybody get one. Come on up, sir, if you'd like to come in and join the class.
Want me to leave it here? You want to start?
Okay. Everybody's with it. Let me know when you're done. Just go ahead and look up so I'll know who's done with it. Good. Just right now the top part. We just want to read that one section about a poor workman who blames his tools. Okay. Young lady, you had a chance to read that little paragraph? What did you get out of that by reading that?
That our knife skills are probably one of the most valuable things that we have every day.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And what else? Anybody else want to add to that? How about you, young lady?
The knowledge of the knife skills are more important than, are probably more important and using it over and over again than just knowing them.
Okay, the knowledge. So in other words, practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Okay, that's very good. And how about you? Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, picking the right knife for whatever job you're trying to do.
I think absolutely you have a great point. Picking the right tool. There's a right tool for the job, right? Absolutely, sir.
making sure that you maintain your tools at all times, keeping them stored where they're the best times.
Absolutely. And you had your hand up earlier, ma'am?
Make sure that you hone or sharpen your knives or your any tools on a regular basis to make sure that they work for you or for that partner.
Right, very good. You're all correct. You're all correct. And the bottom line is, this is part of what we call mise en place. The word we use, mise en place, translated literally from the French, mise en place means everything in its place. And what we're trying to do in the kitchen, in the culinary world, is we're trying to make sure that everything is truly in its place. So I'd like to take a look at my mise en place here today. And I want to talk briefly about this. And this is an application of real world. I found out last week that I was going to be doing this event. I was going to be doing this demonstration. So last week I consulted with Keith, who who agreed to be my cameraman. Thank you very much, Keith, for being here doing that. And I started making a few plans. I started developing a lesson plan. I made a handout for the students. I thought about how I'm going to design my setup and my mise en place. Yesterday, I peeled some potatoes. I peeled some carrots. I thought about laying out all my knives and explaining my knives. I thought about all this when I was developing the lesson plan. The point here is this is mise en place in action. This is actually getting ready for something and being prepared. So you have to be able to take mise en place from the page and put it into practice. We all know in the kitchen what's coming up next. We all have an idea what events are coming up. It's our job to make sure that we plan ahead and that we prep accordingly. As you can see here, we have a cleaning bucket, we have a sanitizer bucket, we have a complete setup, and we have our utensils here. Checking the sanitizer. How many people do this on a regular basis? Check their sanitizer. Okay? Everybody should know how to do this, but there's no sense in me having a sanitizer bucket here if it's not to the proper dilution. So, I take a sanitizer, I put it into the bucket, I look at the color, I match it to the side of the container. What I'm looking for is a minimum of 50 parts per million. This actually looks closer to 100, which is good. We're looking for a minimal amount on the sanitation. So we have the sanitizer bucket, cleaning bucket. As we go, we're going to be able to clean. Okay, that's the first thing. Safety and sanitation comes first. Here, I have some tools laid out, and I want to explain these to you briefly. On the top of my sheet pan, I have some garnishing tools. This is from a standard garnishing kit that I bought in Germany almost 30 years ago, and I still have it. It's made well and it's made correctly. One of the first pieces I want to explain to you is a Parisian scoop. This is a miniature scoop used very much like a melon baller, used very similar to this, except the scoop is much smaller. The proper use of this tool is a rocking motion back and forth. When we're going into a piece of fruit or something like that, we're going to rock back and forth. And that way we're going to get that circular design out of it. Another tool that I have here to demonstrate is a channel knife. What this is designed to do is to cut a groove, a uniform groove into, say, a carrot or something like that. And this can be very handy for just decorative work. Next to that, I have a standard peeler that we're going to use to peel carrots and onions and different things. And many people don't realize, but this has 2 blades on it. Does everybody realize that this has 2 blades? What does that mean? You can go in 2 directions, right? You don't have to go in 1 direction. A lot of people just go in 1 direction. This is a standard melon baller with 2 different sizes. Again, this works on the same principle, the rocking motion. This is a zester, and simply the zest to remove some of the fragrance or the zest from something like an orange or a lemon. This is something that not everybody uses, or you don't see all the time. It's called a tomato sharp. And what this is used for is the top of a tomato. It's used just like you would use a melon baller. It's placed at the top of a tomato. It's rocked back and forth, and the core of the tomato is removed from the top and the bottom. It actually saves a lot of waste because if you go ahead and make a channel and cut into the tomato, what you're going to have is usually like a V-shaped piece, and you're going to waste some of the tomato. What this does is it minimizes the amount of waste for the tomato. The next we have is a regular peeler with a stationary blade. Again, two blades there. This is a standard corer to core out apples or fruits that have seeds in the center. And the last tool for the garnishing is a curler. This is designed to take a piece of butter and to draw across the top of the butter and to curl the butter into a pretty design. If you've never done that, that's what you would use that tool for. I brought the garnishing tools really just as a review, just to go over those. The main tools that I'm really going to use today, first of all, my steel and my chef's knife. I went ahead and sharpened my chef's knife before class, and now I have my steel. And if I want to go over my blade, I'm going to true out my blade on the steel, just like this. The next knife that I want to demonstrate is called an offset serrated knife. If any of you have ever used these before, This is a great knife. This is great for vegetable prep, for fruit prep. Almost 30 years ago when I worked in Marriott hotels, we used this type of knife all the time for food prep in the kitchen. The next knife I have is a boning knife, and the reason I have this out here today is I'm not going to use it, but I wanted to talk to you about the different grips of the knives. And this actually is going to be one of the grips I'm going to discuss, is using a boning knife. This next knife I actually purchased in Germany about 7 years ago. This is a specialty knife. This is a crinkle knife. Okay, this is not a standard knife. The actual blade is designed to make a crinkle cut all the way across. You can do some real decorative work with this type of knife. Next, I have what's known as a tournée knife, or a bird's beak. The knife is designed for actually doing the tournée. Do you need a tournée knife to do tournée work? No, you don't. But this makes it a little bit easier. Some people feel that this is easier. Next, I have a standard paring knife. Again, this was sharpened, just like all these knives were sharpened prior to class as part of my mise en place. The next thing I have is another knife I bought in Germany. This is a serrated paring knife. This can be very useful for specialty work when you're peeling fruit and things like that. That serrated blade can be very helpful. And last but not least, another paring knife that I purchased when I was in Germany. And these kind of are a set, these two knives. So, any questions so far about the equipment, about the purpose of the knives, or about anything that we've covered so far?
Okay.
No. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the holding of the knife. As I mentioned, I alluded to this before. There are 4 basic ways you can hold a knife. Okay, the first method is probably my favorite. It's going to be 4 fingers gripped around the handle and 1 finger on top in a manner like this. We know we use our other hand as a claw, and we use this to guide the food and to steady it. We also decide on the length of the food by this hand. Okay, so these 2 hands work together. So we can do it 4 and 1 on top. That's one method. Another method is 4 and 1 on the side. So that would be a second method. I can hold the knife this way. A third method would be 3 fingers, 1 finger on each side of the blade. So 3 fingers wrapped around and 1 on each side of the blade. So I can hold the knife this way. Some people like to do it that way. A fourth method would be with the boning knife. And this would be simply taking the boning knife, gripping your 4 fingers around it, placing your thumb on top, and using it in this manner. Now, why would you use a knife in this manner? What kind of work do you think you'd be doing with this? Flaying fish, maybe boning out a piece of meat like a rack of beef. If you're removing a large bone, what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to remove as much flesh and open it up as quickly as possible. So that would be another alternative that you could use. Okay, let's get started on actual prep. The first thing I want to demonstrate is the orange segment, or the supreme. Now, we all did this in fundamentals class, right? We all did the oranges? Okay. One of the things I'm going to do that might be a little different is I'm going to use a paper towel. Now, you might wonder, why am I going to use a paper towel? Does anybody wonder?
For all the juice.
To absorb some juice, to also maybe pick up the peels and not have a big mess on the board. I'm going to do that again when I get to the carrot and the onion. But with the orange, we're going to start with the orange. We're basically going to make a cut across the top. We're going to remove the top part. We're going to turn it around. Remove the bottom part. We're going to stand the orange up. And the goal is we want to peel this down like a barrel. Now, I can continue with this knife, or since I've got all these nice knives out here, I can continue with one of my other knives, which this is a perfect one to continue with. This serrated knife is actually perfect for this kind of job. What I'm going to do, the idea is, I want to start off at the top of the orange, I want to go out, and I want to come back in, sort of like a curve. That's the idea. I want to start in, go back out, and turn back in. So I'm making a sort of an angle cut as I go. I'm going to do that.
Is there a reason why the serrated one is better than the other knives?
That's a good question. The reason the serrated seems to work better is because of the teeth. You've got a more precision for fruits and vegetables. It just seems like it does a better job because it's more precision. It's more of a precise cut. But that's a very good question. Serrated knives typically are used for things like, sometimes they're used for breads that are gentle, things that are like a tomato that might smash. If I have, say, a dull knife, let's say this knife was not quite sharp enough, and I was trying to slice a tomato. If I went through it with this knife, with the serrated blade, it will slice very nicely through the tomato. However, the straight blade, it might actually smash the tomato down because it's not sharp enough to cut through it. So people sometimes use that with gentler things, especially breads. Good question though.
Chef, does the serrated knife give a better grip on the fruit itself? Not basically in your hand, but just with the fruit itself?
I would say so, Betty, because of the teeth, it sort of sits, it has more points of contact. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would agree with that.
Thank you, Chef.
You're quite welcome. So we're going to continue on with the peel. And the goal is to have the orange peeled completely around, not to have any pit or any white on the outside. Okay, so that we pretty much have that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this stuff to one side because we want to remain neat as we work. Remember, we want to have good mise en place and good organization. So we want to remain neat as we work. My goal now is to take the knife and go in between the membranes. There's a white membrane that runs completely through. And what we'd like to do is remove the orange, the dark part of the orange, and leave the membrane behind. And the goal is, as all of us know that have done a knife skills rubric, the end result is we don't want to have any pith on the orange segments, right? That's what we're shooting for. So let's see if I can pass.
Are you cutting straight down or at an angle?
At an angle, at an angle. That's a great question. What the idea is, it's sort of like a V cut. You're going to go, because this goes into a V shape, so you're trying to follow the actual natural contour. Great question. We're trying to utilize the product. We don't want to have a lot of waste. At the same time, we don't want to have pith left on the orange. So we want to be cautious. We want a cautious balance between utilizing product and not wasting it, at the same time, removing all the waste that we're supposed to remove. So it's a balancing act. It really, really is. As much of what we do in culinary arts is a balancing act, as many of you already know. Okay, so pretty much gone through that. Get rid of this waste. And I'm just going to put these here so you get an idea. The different cuts that we've talked about today. Okay. I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to wipe down my tools. Clear off my board. Now, folks, I know you've all peeled a potato before, and I know you've peeled a carrot before. However, I wanted to demonstrate that as well as part of this class. So, just as a review, I wanted to, thank you very much. I wanted to go over this skill. we're not gonna sit here and peel carrots and potatoes for a half an hour because, you know, I think you have better things to do than that, and you're not here to learn how to peel, but I just wanted to review it real fast. And then we're gonna do some cuts with the carrots and the potatoes that we already do have peeled. So I just wanted to demonstrate this skill. Okay, as I said, both the carrot and the potato are gonna be peeled, just real quick. This, remember, this has 2 blades. So we start off with the carrot, we place the carrot on the cutting board, we work up and down, in an up and down motion, like that. We stop, turn it over, and peel the other side. Okay, get rid of the big waste. Simply just put that in the trash. We'll take our knife and we're going to cut the top and the bottom. Now that carrot's ready to go. Very easy. Okay, put this in a bucket with the other carrots. I'm going to switch over to the potato. Potato is the same thing. You can stand the potato up. Remember, this has 2 blades. Not as easy to go back and forth, but you can still do it somewhat. So basically, that would be the potato. And since in the essence of time, we do have them already prepared here, and we're going to work with this product next. Any questions so far? All right, very good. I'm going to go ahead and clean up a little bit. Always maintaining sanitation here. And for the next part, I'm going to work with the cut ruler. Now, all of you have a cut ruler, is that correct? From your kits? They still issue the cut ruler in your kits? That's very good. Also, on my knife, this happens to be a competition knife. And on the blade, very faintly, there's a 6-inch ruler on my blade. So that's actually a handy tool to have, because you actually have a ruler with you. So don't ever think it's a bad thing to use a ruler. Why do I say that? Chefs use them all the time, okay? Professional chefs. If you go to an ACF competition, for those of you that have been in competitions, I believe you've been in a few, is that right, sir? Do they measure, are they very precise with everything?
Very precise. They're always making sure each time it's exactly the same.
They're making sure accuracy is paramount, so there's no shame in being accurate. Is that correct? Okay. Everybody gets that, right? There's no shame in measuring and being sure. And that's one of the first things we're actually going to do right now. We're going to start off with a fine julienne cut. But as we get into this, we're going to use a carrot. I'm going to take the carrot. The first concern that I have is I want my pieces to be about 2 inches long on my ruler. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start by cutting this carrot into 2-inch segments. We simply take the carrot, we start at the back end, we measure off about 2 inches. There's one. Look at that, we got approximately 3 sections out of this carrot. Okay, the next thing we're concerned with when we're doing a fine julienne cut, can someone tell me the dimensions of a fine julienne cut? Say it ma'am, louder. Okay, for the fine julienne cut, it would be 1/16 by 1/16 by 2 inches. But very good, very good. Thank you for participating. Okay, so 1/16. If we have a ruler here, we have a 1/2 inch. Basically, we're dividing that inch into 16 parts. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we're saying that 1/2 inch would be 8 parts. So it's 1/8 of the half actually. So one of those 8 parts, I could use that little marker. It's 1/8 of a half. Is another way to say it. That's the way I look at it. So I'm going to use that as a guideline. And the first thing I'm going to do before I get into the nitty gritty is I'm going to shape this carrot. Okay, anytime we're making a precise cut, what we want to do is we want to start off with a square object. Okay, if we're trying to make a square brunoise, a square julienne, or anything even, we have to start off with the even surface. Because if we don't, what's going to happen at the end?
Okay.
Everybody knows if they've worked with an onion, and that's one of the reasons I don't have an onion out here today, is because an onion's bothersome, okay? Because an onion has too many curves, and for the purpose of a nice demonstration and the purpose of showing off some precise cuts, I don't think an onion's the right tool to do that with. So that's why I chose to focus on the carrot, the potatoes, and the oranges, so we can have a nice presentation. But you know what I'm saying, when something is not even, it's very difficult to work with. So, we start with the carrot, we make our first cut. We make one cut along the bottom. We're not looking to waste a lot of material, we're looking to just remove it. The goal is to make it flat, so we can turn it on its side, and then we're going to do that cut again. We're going to turn it on its side, we're going to make that cut one more time. We're going to turn it, and yet again, we're going to make that square. Okay, we have somewhat of a square. Remove this waste. Okay, so we said 1/16 by 1/16 by 2 inches. Is that correct? Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut down this carrot into planks, what we'll call planks or sections. I'm going to even it off just a little bit more though, so it's nice and square. Good. Okay. I'm going to go back to my ruler. Placing my ruler flat and deciding what I think is 1/16. So, I'm going to go with that first mark. Okay. Using my guide, I'm going to make my first cut. Then, what's going to happen is we're going to make a second cut from this cut. We're going to start with the fine julienne, and we're going to cut the fine julienne cut, and then we're going to turn it, and we're also going to make a second cut called the fine brunoise. So, I'm going to use this cut. That I've already done. I'm going to turn it. And now I'm going to continue on 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to place that here. Any questions so far?
No check.
Okay. And clean up a little bit. Always maintain sanitation in between. What are we doing next? We're going to work on the julienne cut. This is 1/8 by 1/8 by 2 inches. So we're going to do that one next. Since I already have some carrots prepped here, I'm going to work with what I have. Measuring 1/8. And again, we're going to follow the same procedure. Taking the regular julienne cut and doing the same idea as we did before, we're going to turn it into a brunoise. We're going to turn it on its side, we're going to slice it, then turn it, and cut it into a brunoise dice. Next, we're going to do the bayonet and the small dice. So the bayonet is going to be 1/8 by 1/8 by 2 inches. I'm sorry, 1/4 by 1/4 by 2 inches for the bayonet. So 1/4, we're not going to get as much out of it as we have been getting. So I'm basically going to be splitting this block in half now. Okay? And then I'm going to split it again. And then split it in half one more time. And then finally, we're going to do a small dice with the other half. Okay, next is we're going to use a specialty knife. I want to demonstrate something to you. Some of the things you can do with a specialty knife would include a standard crinkle cut. Using a crinkle knife and using a regular carrot, you can begin with the carrot and basically slice through at your own discretion and make some pretty crinkle cuts. You can also vary that quite a bit. All I have to do is cut the carrot in half. And now, I can take this crinkle cut knife again, and I can do half moons. The possibilities are endless for what you decide to do with it. You can take the same carrot, and now you can do an oblique cut. What is an oblique?
Pyramid.
45 and turn it back and forth. You could also cut on a bias. What is a bias cut? .35. So, we're going to start off. I'm going to do a few bias cuts. You might recognize this maybe from Asian cuisine. You might have seen something like this in your favorite Chinese restaurant. We do stuff like this. Just different. It's endless what you can do with a specialty knife. And that's just an example of 3 different cuts there that we can do with that knife. Okay, any questions so far? Good utilization is important. What can we do with the peelings? Especially the carrot peelings. Mirepoix. So you want to save your carrots. Any trim that you have, you want to save it in a bucket and you want to put it to good use later. Now, let's talk about mirepoix real quick as a review. Is a stalk supposed to be a garbage pail? No. Why not? Can you explain that, Anna? What is this?
Using it for excess product and not using it for trash product. So,
You want your stock to be a quality product at the end, so you have to put in good products for it to turn out good, right? That's the point. That's the point that we're trying to make. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch over from the carrot to the potato. We're going to do a couple of different cuts for the potato. Okay, so we're going to start off with a medium dice, which is a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch. And then we're going to do a paisan cut, which is a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch by 1/8. So we're going to demonstrate. And the reason, does anybody get why I paired these the way I did, these cuts? Can you explain that to the class, why they were paired the way they were?
well, each cut is like the initial step for the final product.
Exactly. So they kind of pair well together. And then you know if you have to do, let's say you have to do Brunoise dice, and you have to do Julienne dice, then you want to work those two together in conjunction, so that way, at the end, you're not doing double work.
Right.
So that's the whole idea. So going back to mise en place and planning, this is something that when you're thinking ahead and you're planning out your part, this is something that you want to do. You want to definitely plan ahead. Absolutely. So on the potato, we're going to go with the same concept. We're going to square the potato off. Till we get basically a square. Now we talk about some restaurants being perfect. In a perfect restaurant, you're going to keep going until it's perfect. In a realistic restaurant, you're probably going to stop at some point and you're going to make a dice that is not so perfect. But for education purposes, we try to show you the ideal. What does that word mean, ideal, Doug? Can you explain that to the class?
As close as possible.
To,
Get to the best. Yeah.
as close as possible to what you'd be doing, okay? In other words, as close as possible to perfection. We try for perfection, but what's the but part?
In a relocation setting, sometimes you don't have the time to spend it perfection. You have to
The closest thing, the next best thing, is that right?
check.
Okay. That's a fair statement, I would say. I would say that's a fair statement because, you know, you have to run a business. At the end of the day, you have to be able to run a business. Okay. So, we're going to take this now and we're going to do 1/4 inch dice. Sorry. And it's going to look something like this. And then we're going to take this a step further, and we're going to do what's called the Padavan, or the tile cut. And that's simply a flat cut. The Paisan? Paisan. Like a tile. They call it a tile cut or a flat cut. Okay? Alright. We're going to do a couple more cuts, folks, and we're going to wrap this lesson up as time is clicking and we have places to go and people to see. So we're going to wrap this thing up. The next thing we're going to do is a tornado cut. We're going to start off with a potato, and the goal is I'm going to try to get 4 tornadoes out of the potato. So I'm quartering the potato. I'm taking my tornado knife, and I'm going to begin. The goal is we're looking for something that's about 2 inches long, roughly 2 inches long, and we're looking for something that is 7-sided. 7-sided, if everybody remembers correctly. So we begin, the way I look at the tornado, the easiest way to look at it is to think about the side, and then what I told you earlier about the orange, you start at the top, you start in, you work your way out, and you go back in. It's that same principle with the tornado. It's one continuous cut. One continuous cut along the tornado. So that's what I'm going to do right now. One continuous cut, folks. When you start, you're going to be removing a lot of the blockiness to get it down to the right contour.
The high-end restaurants that use the same cut.
A high-end restaurant would use it because it is labor intensive. Let's talk about labor for a minute. What does it mean for something to be labor intensive? It takes a lot of time.
Expensive.
And you need somebody usually with skills, right? When you're talking about labor, you're talking about somebody that's highly skilled. If somebody does not have the skills, what's going to happen with your cost factors?
You're gonna pay them a lot of money to do a lot of
You're gonna lose money.
You're going to lose because of waste factor, right? So you either, as we say, you can either spend money on your product, buying product that's already prepared that doesn't